Welcome to the deep dive. We take the stack of articles, research, and data, and we extract the critical knowledge you need. Today, we're diving into what might be the modern mobile gaming industry's biggest gamble, Supercell.
And it's more than just, a studio that made huge franchises like Clash of Clans. We're really looking at a corporate strategy that is fundamentally built around, around institutionalizing high-stakes risk.
Right, they actually budget for massive failures. They celebrate them.
They do, and they see it as just the necessary price to pay for finding that next huge outlier hit.
Exactly. So we've dug through a ton of reports, internal commentary, really everything from their mega acquisition by Tencent all the way through their, let's call them chaotic recent game launches.
Yeah, chaotic is a good word for it.
And our mission here is to analyze this intricate dance between, on one hand, the staggering financial bet that Tencent made.
We're talking billions of dollars.
And on the other hand, the extreme operational risk Supercell takes on the ground with its famously decentralized structure.
And we get to see how it all played out in real time. With the resurgence of Brawl Stars, the very public failure of Squad Busters, and this mysterious new project, Mo.co.
It's a fascinating case of how deep financial stability becomes the bedrock for extreme creative volatility.
It really is.
So speaking of that stability, we have to start with the corporate backdrop. We have to talk about Tencent's acquisition of Supercell way back in 2016. That was an $8.6 billion deal.
An incredible number. And this wasn't just pocket change for Tencent. This was a massive strategic move. They needed market share, they wanted to diversify, and crucially, this was their ticket into the Western mobile gaming market. Supercell's finish, after all.
Yeah, it's high-stakes corporate expansion at its clearest. But what's fascinating here is the valuation. How do you even put a price tag like that on a creative company?
Well, that's the challenge, right? Your traditional finance models, they just kind of fall apart. Things like discounted cash flow analysis, DCF, those tools look for stable, predictable earnings. They look backward. But a company like Supercell, their entire value is speculative. It's about what they'll create next.
Okay, but if the models were shaky, how did they justify $8.6 billion? There must have been something solid there.
Oh, for sure. Pre-acquisition, Supercell was an absolute powerhouse. The sources confirmed they were already pulling in over $1 billion in revenue annually with these just incredibly robust profit margins.
So the existing IP was a huge part of it.
A huge part. But the valuation was still a massive forecast. It was a bet on their unique culture continuing to churn out hits.
Which means Tencent was taking on some enormous risks from day one.
Absolutely. Three big ones. First, just valuation risk. Did they simply overpay? A very real possibility. Then there's market risk. The gaming world can change overnight. But the big one, the one that kills most mergers, is operational risk. How do you merge two completely different cultures, especially across borders, without destroying what you just bought?
And this is where Tencent made a really interesting choice. Instead of coming in and centralizing everything, which, you'd expect when you spend almost $9 billion.
It's the standard playbook.
Right. They did the opposite. They let Supercell keep its near-complete autonomy.
Minimal oversight. It was a conscious choice to preserve that innovative entrepreneurial spirit they were paying for.
It sounds great, but I have to ask, doesn't that level of freedom lead to just massive inefficiencies? How do you justify letting a CEO who calls himself the least powerful run an $8 billion asset?
That's the whole bet. The success of this M&A isn't just about the stock price next quarter. It's about long-term alignment. It's about Tencent strengthening its global IP. But more than anything, it's about avoiding a failed integration. If they had forced their own structure on Supercell, that innovative engine would have just seized up. The whole investment would have gone up in smoke.
So they were betting that the culture itself was the asset worth protecting.
Exactly. And that brings us right to Supercell's DNA. That upside-down organization they paid all that money to protect.
Right. If you just picture a normal org chart and flip it over, that's basically it. The creative developers are at the top, they run the show. The whole company is built around these small, self-governing teams they call cells.
Usually just 10 to 17 people. And the key here is total creative independence. There's no big management committee you have to pitch your game to, no green light process, no milestone meetings to justify why your project should still exist.
So what does management even do then?
Their job is inverted. They're not bosses. They're supporters. Their entire function is to remove obstacles so the cells can create. That's where that least powerful CEO idea comes from.
It sounds almost recklessly free. Is there any kind of safety net?
The safety net is the culture of failure. It's designed, engineered, to encourage risk-taking by making failure, well, not just okay, but a positive. When a game gets killed, they literally celebrate it with champagne.
Wow.
And it's not just a party. It's a very loud, very public signal to everyone else. The cost of failing is zero, but the cost of not trying something big and disruptive is huge. Their philosophy is you have to make new mistakes.
I can just imagine the tension that must create. A team is passionate about something, but maybe the rest of the company thinks it's a dud.
It happens all the time. The sources give us two perfect examples. First, the CEO himself admitted he was a huge doubter of the prototype for Clash Royale.
Which became a monster hit.
A monster hit. But he didn't step in. He refused to override the team because protecting their independence was more important than his own gut feeling in that moment.
And then there's the Boom Beach story.
That one's even crazier. During development, almost everyone wanted to kill it. 9 out of the 10 team leads in the company thought it wasn't strong enough.
But the team itself believed in it.
The team lead insisted. And because of the culture, his team's autonomy won out over near unanimous skepticism. The CEO knew that overruling that one team, even if it was the right business call, would destroy the very culture Tencent just bought. That's a necessary operational risk.
And all this ties back to their long-term goal. They're not trying to make games for next year. They want to build games that last for 10, 20, even 30 years.
Exactly. And to do that, you need a long-term view. This autonomy lets teams be really deliberate. They have this internal phrase, saving the forest. It means not cutting down all the trees for short-term revenue. Don't burn through all your design ideas just to get a quarterly revenue spike.
It's a constant fight against the traditional approach that always tries to creep in.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Which is the perfect context as we shift to the very recent past. The wild outcomes of 2024 and 2025. This is where we see that culture get tested in real time.
And let's start with the big success story, the one that took even leadership by surprise. The resurgence of Brawl Stars.
Yeah, this is a game that was over 5 years old. It's mature. And the sources show it wasn't even a top priority for leadership heading into 2024. And then everything changed.
It saw what was described as historic growth. The metrics players, engagement, revenue, they doubled, tripled, some even quadrupled in just a few months. And the best part, the CEO admitted he was the last to find out he had nothing to do with it, which is just peak Supercell.
So what was the secret? What actually changed?
The team lead said it was about scaling the team. They grew from a normal cell size to 60 or even 80 people. For Supercell, that's massive. And that size allowed them to manage their risk differently. They could still make the big 50-50 bets on brand new features, but they also had the people to consistently ship smaller, incremental updates. The quality of life stuff that has, say, a 90-10 chance of success, they became fearless, but not reckless.
Okay, now let's contrast that slow, methodical success with the explosion and, well, the collapse of Squad Busters. This was supposed to be the test of their new philosophy. Move faster, take bold risks on a global stage, skip the years-long soft launch.
And on the marketing side, they nailed it. Huge celebrity ad campaign. It generated over $100 million in its first 7 months. Financially, you could call it a success. But strategically, for their long-term goals, it was a profound failure. It wasn't on track to be a 10-year game.
And the moment of truth came early in 2025.
Yeah, the team realized they got it wrong, and they attempted what they call a big creative swing. They introduced the Heroes model in the 2.0 update.
This was described as the boldest game change of this scale in their history.
It was. And it was a creative death spiral. They tried to fix the game by adding more structure, more complexity, and it just alienated the core players who loved the chaotic, simple fun of the original. A lot of them quit right after 2.0. It was a big swing, but a complete miss.
So in October 2025, they announced it. The end of active development. The game's set to close in mid-2026.
It's painful, but it affirms their core rule. If it can't last for years, kill it fast and move on.
And they're trying to manage player trust through this, which is crucial.
Very crucial. They're letting anyone who made a purchase in 2025 transfer that value over to another one of their games like Clash or Brawl Stars. It's a smart way to mitigate the risk to the reputation. It shows players it's safe to invest in their new ideas.
Which brings us to their very next new idea, Mo.co. Despite the Squad Busters failure, they are not giving up on new games. They're actually inspired by the Brawl Stars turnaround.
Right, and Mo.co is a really interesting evolution. The game itself is a casual co-op RPG. That's already a big shift away from their usual competitive PvP focus. And the monetization is totally different. It's cosmetics only. They're completely avoiding the pay-to-win systems they're kind of known for. That's a huge risk in both genre and business model.
And the launch strategy was just weird. A kind of controlled public beta. It launched globally in March 2025, but you couldn't just download it. It was invite only. You needed a QR code from a streamer or an invite from another player.
The thinking behind it was pretty sound, though. They wanted to get a very dedicated, a very motivated group of players to give them rapid, high-quality feedback. They were looking for the right users, not just a huge number of users.
But it caused a lot of confusion at first.
Oh yeah, downloads were low initially because people didn't realize they needed a code. But the daily active users stabilized pretty quickly at around 400,000. So it seems like they successfully found that core audience they were looking for. They're basically fixing the game in public, but with a focused community.
And they're also trying to build a system for future hits with their internal Spark program.
This is their way of formalizing that core philosophy. We greenlight teams, not games. It is always team first, idea second.
So the Spark process is intentionally tough. It's game jams, rapid prototyping, all under high pressure.
Exactly. They have this saying, diamonds are created under pressure. And the goal isn't even to find a good game prototype. The real goal is to see how the team works together under stress. Can they survive the skepticism? Can they fight for their idea like the Boone Beach team did? They've already launched 5 new teams out of this program.
It shows they're committed to constantly disrupting themselves.
They have to be. The CEO is asking that critical question any big companies should. Are we now the disbelievers? Are we getting too big and slow to see the next big thing, especially with tech like AI on the horizon? For them, that high tolerance for failure is the only defense against being disrupted by someone else.
So when you step back, the whole thing is fascinating. Risk isn't something to be mitigated. It's an actual line item in the budget.
Absolutely. Supercell's success isn't just defined by Clash of Clans. It's defined by how quickly and efficiently they process and learn from their failures, like Squad Busters. And that massive financial stability from the Tencent deal, that $8.6 billion safety net, that's what makes this extreme level of creative risk-taking even possible.
The corporate strategy is, at its core, an organizational one. Keeping those teams autonomous, protecting that culture, that's the price they pay for a shot at the next billion-dollar outlier.
And we'll leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought that comes straight from the source material. Despite all this focus on disruptive innovation, reports show that globally, the majority of mobile playtime, over 60% of it, is still spent on games that are 6 years or older.
So it raises a really big question. In this high-stakes forever game of mobile development, is constant disruptive innovation really the key to survival? Or is the most valuable asset you can have simply the time and the investment that players have already committed to your past?
Something to think about.
Something for you to mull over until our next deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.